I never thought I'd be the one sitting alone at a cafe, staring at my phone in disbelief, while my entire world collapsed around me. The morning had started like any other. I'd woken up early, made coffee, and headed to work, completely unaware that by afternoon, I'd discover how meaningless my decade of sacrifice had been to my family. It was a regular Tuesday when I got the text from Mom asking me to stop by their lawyer's office to sign some routine paperwork for the house. Our family home, a modest 2-story colonial in a quiet Pittsburgh suburb, had been my weekend project for years. I'd poured my savings, sweat, and countless hours into keeping it standing strong. "Just need your signature on a few things," Mom had texted casually. "Mr. Abernathy said it won't take long," I'd replied with a thumbs-up emoji, not thinking twice about it. After all, I'd been handling most of their financial paperwork since Dad's health took a turn 3 years ago. Between his heart condition and Mom's tendency to avoid anything involving numbers, I'd naturally fallen into the role of family accountant, handyman, and general problem solver. I took an early lunch break and drove across town to the small office building where our family lawyer had been working for as long as I could remember. The receptionist smiled when I walked in. "Right on time, Alex. Mr. Abernathy is waiting for you." The lawyer's office smelled like old books and coffee. Mr. Abernathy, a balding man in his 60s with round glasses perched on his nose, greeted me with a firm handshake. "Good to see you, Alex. How's work going these days?" "Can't complain," I said, settling into the leather chair across from his desk. "Mom said you needed me to sign something?" Yes. He shuffled through some papers, then slid a document across the desk. "Just finalizing the transfer of ownership. Your parents wanted everything in order." I reached for the document, expecting to see my name alongside my parents. Instead, I froze when I saw the title, "Deed Transfer to Jessica Baker." Jessica, my younger sister. "There must be some mistake," I said, looking up at him. "This says, the house is being transferred to Jessica." Mr. Abernathy's expression shifted slightly. "Yes, that's correct. Your parents decided to transfer ownership of the property to Jessica. They said they discussed this with you?" I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. No, they didn't." He cleared his throat uncomfortably. "I see. Well, they mentioned it was something the family had agreed upon. Since Jessica will be moving back home to help care for them as they age." I barely heard the rest of what he said. My mind was racing, trying to process this information. Jessica, who had moved to Chicago 5 years ago to pursue her acting career, was suddenly moving back home, and my parents were giving her the house. The same house I'd saved from foreclosure when I paid off the $50,000 second mortgage they'd taken out to fund Jessica's college education and first failed business venture. "I need to make a call," I said, standing abruptly. I stepped out into the hallway, my hands shaking as I dialed my mother's number. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice cautious. "Alex, did you sign the papers?" "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why am I at the lawyer's office looking at papers? Transferring the house to Jessica?" A pause. I could almost see her fidgeting with her wedding ring, something she always did when uncomfortable. "It's not what you think, honey. We just thought it made more sense this way. You have your own place, and Jessica's coming home. She needs a fresh start, and we need someone looking after us. And what about the $50,000 I paid to save the house? The money I took from my 401k with penalties to keep the bank from foreclosing when Dad got sick?" Another pause. "We're so grateful for that. You know we are. But that was 3 years ago, and 3 years isn't that long, Mom. I'm still rebuilding my savings. I put my life on hold to help you and Dad, and now you're giving the house to Jessica. Alex, please try to understand. Your sister needs this more than you do. You've always been the strong one, the stable one. You have a good job, a nice apartment. Jessica's struggling and—" "Stop," I interrupted, unable to hear more. "Just stop. I'll call you later." I hung up and leaned against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. The unfairness of it all was staggering. While I'd spent my 20s and early 30s helping my parents, fixing the roof, replacing the water heater, paying bills when they couldn't, Jessica had been bouncing between jobs and apartments, calling home only when she needed money. Walked back into Mr. Abernathy's office, picked up my jacket, and headed for the door. "I won't be signing anything today," I said coldly. My parents apparently neglected to mention a few important details. He looked uncomfortable, but nodded. I understand. Family matters can be complicated. You have no idea, I muttered as I left. I drove aimlessly for a while, too upset to go back to work, but not ready to face my empty apartment. Eventually, I found myself at Riverside Park, where I used to go as a kid when I needed to think. I sat on a bench overlooking the water, watching ducks glide across the surface, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. The $50,000 I'd paid to save my parents' house had been no small sacrifice. I'd been saving for a down payment on my own home, dreaming of a small place with a garden where I could grow vegetables and maybe get a dog. Instead, I'd emptied my savings and taken a hefty early withdrawal from my retirement account when my father's heart attack coincided with the final notice from the bank. I remembered sitting at their kitchen table, calculator in hand, showing them how I could help if they'd just let me. Mom had cried with relief, and Dad had clasped my hand, his eyes watery as he promised they'd never forget what I was doing for them. So much for promises. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Mom says you're upset about the house thing. Can we talk? I ignored it. What was there to say? My sister had always been the family favorite, though no one would ever admit it. When we were kids, her dance recitals and school plays always took precedence over my soccer games or academic achievements. As adults, the pattern continued. Her dreams were emergencies that required family resources, while my steady contributions were simply expected. Another text from Jessica. Seriously, Alex, don't be like this. It's not like you need the house. I felt a surge of anger so strong it made my hands shake. I typed back, it's not about needing the house. It's about acknowledging who actually saved it. But enjoy your gift. Just don't call me when the roof leaks or the furnace dies. I put my phone on silent and shoved it into my pocket, then sat, watching the water until the sun began to set. By the time I drove home, I'd made a decision. I was done being the family ATM and handyman. If they valued Jessica's sporadic attention more than my years of sacrifice, they could have her. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I needed space to think, to process the betrayal I was feeling. Around noon, my doorbell rang. When I looked through the peephole and saw Jessica standing there, I seriously considered pretending I wasn't home, but I'd never been good at avoiding confrontation, so I swung the door open, not bothering to hide my anger. What do you want? Jessica pushed past me into the apartment. At 31, 2 years younger than me, she still had the dramatic flair she'd cultivated since childhood. Today she wore an oversized sweater, leggings, and ankle boots that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Nice to see you too, bro, she said, dropping onto my couch. We need to talk about this house situation. There's nothing to talk about, I replied, crossing my arms. Mom and Dad made their choice. You're the golden child, as always. She rolled her eyes. God, you're still so dramatic. This isn't high school anymore, Alex. It's not about favorites. Then what is it about? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I paid $50,000 to save a house that's now being handed to you. For free. Jessica had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. Look, I know you helped them out when Dad got sick, and that was really great of you. But you're established, Alex. You've got this nice apartment, a stable job with benefits. I'm trying to restart my life after a complete disaster in Chicago. And that's my problem. How? It's not your problem, she said, frustration creeping into her voice. But Mom and Dad need someone living with them now. Dad's health isn't getting better, and Mom can't handle everything alone. I'll be there to help, to take care of them. And the house is your payment? I asked bitterly. It's not like that. They want to make sure I have security, that's all. After everything fell apart in Chicago, everything fell apart because you quit your stable office job to join that sketchy startup your ex-boyfriend was running? I interrupted. Which, by the way, I warned you about. She flinched. Thanks for the reminder. Really helpful. We fell into silence, the tension between us thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Jessica sighed. Look, I didn't come here to fight. I just wanted to clear the air. Mom and Dad feel terrible about how you found out. But not terrible about what they did, I noted. She shrugged. They think it's the right decision for everyone. And honestly, Alex, would you even want to live in that house? You've always talked about getting your own place, something modern. That wasn't the point, and she knew it. The house represented years of my life. Thousands of dollars from my savings, countless weekends spent on repairs instead of building my own life. But Jessica had never been one to see beyond her immediate needs. I hope the three of you will be very happy together, I said finally, standing to show her out. Just don't expect me to keep fixing everything that breaks. She looked at me with a mixture of frustration and something that might have been guilt. You're really going to hold a grudge about this, aren't you? It's not a grudge, Jess. It's a boundary. Something I should have established a long time ago. After she left, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list of all the recurring payments I'd been handling for my parents. Their cell phone bills added to my family plan, the lawn service I'd arranged and paid for, the quarterly HVAC maintenance, contract. One by one, I called to cancel or transfer responsibility back to them. It was time they understood that their decisions had consequences. 2 weeks passed without contact from my family. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office and taking on additional projects to keep my mind occupied. Then, on a rainy Sunday afternoon, my father called. "Alex," he said when I answered, his voice gruff as always. "We need to talk about the lawn service. They're saying the contract was canceled." I took a deep breath. "Yes, I canceled it. Since the house is Jessica's now, she can arrange for lawn care." A pause. "Son, you know I can't push a mower with my heart condition. And your mother, Jessica can figure it out," I interrupted. "She's a homeowner now, with all the responsibilities that entails." "This isn't like you, Alex," he said, disappointment evident in his voice. "We raised you better than this." The hypocrisy of his statement hit me like a physical blow. "You raised me to be responsible, to keep my promises, and to take care of family," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I've done all of that. I paid off the second mortgage that was about to sink you. I fixed everything from leaky faucets to broken gutters. I've been there every single time you called. And how did you repay that? By giving Jessica the house." "It's not that simple, and you know it," my father countered. "Your sister needs—" "Stop telling me what Jessica needs," I snapped. "What about what I needed? What about acknowledging the sacrifices I've made? What about simple fairness?" The line went quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry you feel this way," he finally said, his voice cold. "When you're ready to act like an adult about this, we'll be here." The call ended, and I sat in stunned silence. After everything, they still couldn't see how deeply they'd wounded me. In their eyes, I was the one being unreasonable. Later that evening, I received a group text from my mother. "Family dinner next Sunday at 5. Hope you'll join us, Alex. Jessica's making her famous lasagna." I stared at the message, torn between anger and a lifetime of conditioning to always show up for family. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to continue my self-imposed exile. Another part, the part that had been raised to value family above all else, whispered that maybe this was an olive branch, a chance to clear the air. After an hour of internal debate, I replied with a simple, "I'll be there." The following Sunday, I drove the familiar route to my parents' house. Jessica's house now, I reminded myself bitterly. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed the overgrown lawn and the gutter hanging loose on one corner of the roof. Things I would have fixed immediately had already been neglected in the few weeks since my absence. Jessica opened the door before I could knock, a forced smile plastered on her face. "Hey, you came!" "I said I would," I replied, stepping past her into the house where I'd grown up. The familiar smell of home, a mixture of my mother's potpourri, old books, and furniture polish, hit me hard, bringing an unexpected lump to my throat. My parents were in the living room, Dad in his recliner watching golf, Mom arranging flowers in a vase. They looked up when I entered, their expressions a mixture of caution and hope. "Alex?" Mom said, moving to hug me. "I'm so glad you came." I returned the hug stiffly, then shook my father's hand. The tension in the room was palpable, everyone carefully avoiding the elephant in the room. "Something smells good," I said, for lack of anything better. "Jessica's lasagna," Mom beamed, "and I made your favorite salad, the one with the cranberries and walnuts." We moved to the dining room, making painful small talk about the weather and Dad's upcoming doctor's appointment. I noticed Jessica shooting anxious glances between our parents and me, clearly hoping the evening wouldn't explode into conflict. It wasn't until we were halfway through dinner that my father cleared his throat and said, "Alex, your mother and I have been thinking. We want to make things right with you." I set down my fork, instantly alert. "I'm listening." Mom jumped in. "We've talked it over, and we realize how it must have looked to you with the house and everything. We want you to know how much we appreciate all you've done for us." "So we're setting up a payment plan," Dad continued. "We're going to pay back that $50,000 with interest." I blinked, processing this. "A payment plan?" "Yes," Mom nodded enthusiastically. "We'll start with small monthly payments, and then when we sell some of our investments next year, we can make a larger payment." I looked at Jessica, who was studying her plate intently. "And the house still goes to Jessica?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Finally, Dad spoke. "The house transfer is already done, Alex, but this way you get your money back. It seems like the fairest solution." I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. The fairest solution would have been to discuss this with me before making decisions about a house I helped save. The fairest solution would have been to acknowledge my contributions before handing everything to Jessica. "I didn't ask for the house," Jessica interjected, finally looking up. "They offered it to me." "And you happily accepted," I replied, never once thinking, hey, maybe my brother who paid off the second mortgage should have a say in this. "That's enough," Dad said firmly. "We're trying to make this right, Alex. We're offering to repay you." I shook my head, pushing back from the table. "You still don't get it. This isn't just about the money. It's about respect. It's about acknowledging that I've been the one you've all counted on, year after year, while Jessica gets rewarded for finally deciding to act like an adult." "That's not fair," Jessica protested. "No, it's not fair," I agreed. "None of this is fair, but I'm done expecting fairness from this family." I stood, tossing my napkin onto the table. "Keep your payment plan. I don't want your guilty money any more than I want to keep fixing a house that was never going to be mine. What I wanted was to be valued, to be seen. But clearly that was too much to ask." My mother was crying now, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "Alex, please, we love you. We've always been proud of you." "Love without respect isn't enough, Mom," I said quietly, "and being proud of me while taking me for granted isn't something I'm interested in anymore." I walked out, ignoring their calls behind me. As I got into my car, I glanced back at the house, the peeling paint on the shutters, the cracked step. I'd been meaning to fix. It had never really been my house, but it had contained so many of my hopes, my efforts, my sacrifices. Driving away felt both devastating and liberating, like cutting off a limb to escape a trap. The weeks that followed were a strange mixture of grief and freedom. I grieved the family I thought I had, the recognition I'd always hoped would come. But I also discovered a new sense of freedom in no longer being the family fixer, the reliable one everyone turned to without question. I started using my weekends for myself, hiking trails I'd always wanted to explore, taking a photography class, meeting friends for drinks without constantly checking my phone for family emergencies. I began saving again, watching my bank account slowly recover as I no longer hemorrhaged money on my parents' house and bills. My mother texted periodically, usually benign messages about how much they missed me or updates on my father's health. I responded politely but briefly, maintaining a distance that felt necessary for my own well-being. Jessica reached out only once, a terse message asking if I knew how to fix the dishwasher that had started leaking. I didn't reply. 3 months after the disastrous family dinner, I received an unexpected email from Mr. Abernathy, the family lawyer. The subject line was simply, "Regarding the Baker property." I almost deleted it without reading, assuming it was some paperwork related to the house transfer. But curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. "Dear Alex," it began, "I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing because your sister Jessica contacted me this week about potentially selling the family home. As this would require your parents' approval given their right to live there for life, I wanted to reach out to you directly to confirm you're aware of this development. Please call my office at your earliest convenience." I stared at the screen, a mixture of disbelief and vindication washing over me. So Jessica, after less than 4 months of homeownership, was already trying to sell the house that was supposed to provide security for her and our aging parents. I called Mr. Abernathy immediately. After exchanging pleasantries, he confirmed what the email had suggested. "Jessica came to see me on Tuesday," he explained. "She's interested in selling the property and wanted to know her options given your parents' life estate. She mentioned something about a business opportunity in Los Angeles that requires significant startup capital. Of course, another get-rich-quick scheme, another dream to chase with no concern for the wreckage left behind. The familiar pattern of Jessica's life was playing out exactly as I'd predicted. "What did you tell her?" I asked. I explained that while she owns the property, your parents have the legal right to live there for the remainder of their lives unless they voluntarily choose to leave. She seemed less than pleased with this information. I bet she was. "Does she need my signature for anything?" "No," he replied, "but given your financial contribution to saving the property from foreclosure," which I should note I was not fully aware of at the time of the transfer, "I felt you should know what's happening." After thanking him for the information, I hung up and sat for a long time, thinking. Part of me wanted to call my parents immediately, to warn them about Jessica's plans, to say, "I told you so" in as many ways as possible. Another part, the part that had been working on setting healthy boundaries, wondered if this was really my problem anymore. In the end, I decided to wait. If Jessica was really planning to sell the house, my parents would find out soon enough. And when they did, they'd have to face the consequences of their choices without me rushing in to fix everything. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, my phone rang with my mother's number. I hesitated before answering, steeling myself for whatever drama was unfolding. "Hello? Alex?" My mother's voice was shaky, like she'd been crying. "I need to talk to you. It's about Jessica and the house." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. "What about them?" "She wants to sell it. She's talking about moving to California for some business opportunity with that friend of hers, the one who always has these crazy ideas. She says we can use some of the money to rent an apartment. But Alex, your father and I can't move at our age. All our memories are in this house, all our friends are nearby, and your father's doctors—" She trailed off, her distress evident, even through the phone. I remained silent, letting her words hang in the air between us. "Alex?" she finally prompted. "Are you there?" "I'm here," I replied. "I'm just wondering why you're telling me this." "Because we need your help," she said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Jessica won't listen to us. She says it's her house now and she can do what she wants with it." "Technically, she's right," I pointed out. "You did give her the house, but we never thought she'd try to sell it out from under us," my mother exclaimed. "We trusted her." The irony was almost too much. Like I trusted all of you to recognize what I'd contributed to saving that house? Like I trusted you to make fair decisions about a property I helped rescue from foreclosure? Silence from the other end of the line. Finally, my mother spoke in a small voice. "You were right, Alex. We made a terrible mistake. We should never have given Jessica the house without talking to you first. We thought she needed the security more than you did. We thought she'd take care of us. Like I've been doing for years," I added quietly. "Yes," she admitted. "Like you've always done." I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. "What do you want from me, Mom? I can't undo the property transfer. The house is legally Jessica's now. Mr. Abernathy says we have a life estate, that she can't force us to move. But she's making life very difficult. She's talking about renting out the spare bedrooms to strangers to generate income until she can sell. She's already stopped paying for the utilities, saying if we want to stay, we need to cover all the costs." That sounded like Jessica, all right. When she couldn't get her way immediately, she'd make everyone around her miserable until they gave in just for peace. "I'm sorry. You're going through this," I said, surprised to find I genuinely meant it. "But I'm not sure what you expect me to do about it." "Talk to her," my mother pleaded. "She's always respected you, even if it doesn't seem like it. Maybe you can reason with her, make her understand this isn't right." I almost laughed at the suggestion. Jessica? Respect me? The same sister who had happily accepted a house she knew I'd saved without a second thought for my feelings? "I don't think I'm the right person for that conversation," I replied. Jessica and I aren't exactly on speaking terms right now. Please, Alex, I wouldn't ask if we weren't desperate. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof with all this stress, and I'm not sleeping at all. We just want peace in our home again. The familiar pull of obligation tugged at me. Despite everything, these were still my parents. They had made a terrible, hurtful mistake. But did I really want to see them forced out of their home or living with random tenants in their 70s? I'll think about it, I finally said. That's all I can promise right now. After hanging up, I poured myself a drink and sat on my balcony, watching the sunset and turning the situation over in my mind. The petty part of me thought this was perfect karmic justice. They had chosen Jessica over me, and now they were facing the consequences of that choice. But another part, perhaps the better part, recognized that my parents were elderly and vulnerable, manipulated by Jessica just as they'd always been. The next morning, I texted Jessica, "We need to talk about Mom and Dad. Coffee at Riverside. Cafe tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll be there for 30 minutes. Show up or don't." Her response came an hour later. "Fine, but I'm not changing my mind about the house." Jessica arrived at the cafe 15 minutes late, a deliberate power move I recognized. From years of dealing with her, she slid into the seat across from me, already defensive. "If Mom and Dad sent you to guilt trip me, you're wasting your time," she said without preamble. "The house is mine, and I have plans for it." I studied her for a moment. She looked stressed, with dark circles under her eyes and a tightness around her mouth that hadn't been there before. "What's in Los Angeles?" I asked calmly. She blinked, thrown off by the unexpected question. "How do you know about that?" "It doesn't matter. What's the big opportunity that's worth uprooting our elderly parents?" She shifted uncomfortably. "It's a wellness startup. My friend Megan is launching a line of supplements and a subscription box service. She wants me to come on as a partner, but I need capital to buy in." "And you think selling the family home is the way to get it?" "It's my house," she said defensively. "I can do what I want with it." "Legally, yes," I conceded. "Morally, that's a different question. Mom and Dad gave you that house because they trusted you to take care of them, to provide them with security in their final years. They'll be fine," she insisted. "They can find a nice little apartment near their doctors. The sale will provide plenty of money for that." "And what happens when that money runs out? When the next great business opportunity comes along and you've burned through whatever's left? Who takes care of them then?" Jessica looked away. "Why, is that automatically my responsibility? Or yours, for that matter? They're adults. They made their choices." "Yes, they did," I agreed. "They chose you, Jessica. They gave you their most valuable asset because they believed in you, and less than 4 months later, you're proving them wrong." Her face flushed with anger. "That's not fair. I have my own life to live. I can't just put everything on hold to be their caretaker." "Then you shouldn't have accepted the house," I said simply. "You knew what came with it. You knew they expected you to be there for them." "Like you've been?" she shot back. "Mr. Perfect, always doing the right thing, making the rest of us look bad." I shook my head. "This isn't about me versus you, Jess. It's about doing right by Mom and Dad. They made a mistake giving you the house without considering my contribution, yes. But now you're making an even bigger mistake by selling it out from under them." She was quiet for a long moment, stirring her untouched coffee. "What do you suggest, then? That I just give up this opportunity? Stay in this town forever playing? Nurse to Mom and Dad?" "I suggest you honor your commitment," I replied. "Or if you can't do that, find a solution that doesn't involve tearing our parents from their home." "Like what?" she challenged. I hesitated, then made a decision I hoped I wouldn't regret. "Transfer the house back to them, or to me. I'll buy you out, not at market value, but enough to give you a start in LA without selling the property." Her eyes widened. "You'd do that? After everything?" "Not for you," I clarified. "For them, and for my own peace of mind, knowing they're secure." Jessica leaned back in her chair, considering. "How much are we talking about?" $20,000, I said firmly. "Plus, I'll take over any expenses you've covered since the transfer." She scoffed. "The house is worth at least $300,000. A house you contributed nothing to save when it was about to be foreclosed on," I reminded her. "A house you've owned for less than 4 months and already want to abandon. $20,000 is my offer. Take it or leave it." She stared at me. For a long moment, calculation clear in her eyes. Finally, she nodded. I need the money by next week, and I wanted in writing that I'm not responsible for Mom and Dad anymore. Not their bills, not their care, nothing. The coldness of her statement should have shocked me, but it didn't. This was who Jessica had always been, thinking only of herself. The difference was that now I had no illusions about changing her. I'll have Mr. Abernathy drop the paperwork, I said, standing to leave. And Jessica, don't come back when this LA venture fails. You've burned this bridge for good. The property transfer was completed quietly a week later. I chose not to tell my parents immediately, wanting the paperwork finalized before Jessica could change her mind. Once it was done, I drove to their house. My house now, technically, to break the news. They were sitting in the living room when I arrived, the weight of recent events visible in their postures. My mother's face lit up with hope when she saw me. Alex, did you talk to Jessica? She's been so quiet the past few days. We were hoping. Maybe. I sat down across from them. I did more than talk to her. I bought the house from her. They stared at me in disbelief. My father found his voice first. You what? I paid her $20,000 to transfer the property to me, I explained. The paperwork was finalized yesterday. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Oh, Alex, after everything, you did that for us? I did it for all of us, I corrected, gently. For you to have security and for me to have peace of mind, and to put this whole mess behind us. But where's Jessica? My father asked, looking around as if she might appear. Does she know you're here? Jessica's gone, I said simply. She took the money and left for Los Angeles yesterday. She was quite clear that she doesn't want to be responsible for either of you anymore. The hurt in their eyes was painful to witness, but I didn't soften the truth. They needed to understand who Jessica really was, not who they wanted her to be. She wouldn't even say goodbye, my mother whispered, tears welling in her eyes. I shook my head. I'm sorry, but I think it's better this way. Clean break, fresh start. My father looked down at his hands, weathered and spotted with age. We made a terrible mistake, Alex. We should have known better. Yes, you should have, I agreed, not unkindly. But what's done is done. Now we move forward. What happens now? My mother asked uncertainly. With the house? With us? Now we set some ground rules, I said, my voice firm but gentle. This is legally my house now, but it's still your home. You'll continue to live here as long as you want or need to. I'll handle the major expenses and repairs like I always have. But we're going to be clear and honest with each other from now on. No more secrets, no more unilateral decisions that affect everyone. They nodded, relief and shame mingling in their expressions. And one more thing, I continued. I need to hear you acknowledge what happened. I need you to understand how deeply it hurt me to discover you'd given away this house after everything I'd done to save it. My father reached for my mother's hand, squeezing it tightly. We were wrong, son. Terribly, inexcusably wrong. You saved this house when we were about to lose it. You've been our rock for years, and we repaid that by taking you for granted. I don't know if you can ever forgive us, but we are truly sorry. My mother was crying openly now. We thought we were doing what was best for everyone. We were so worried about Jessica that we couldn't see how unfair we were being to you. Can you ever forgive us? I felt something release inside me, a knot of anger and hurt that had been lodged in my chest for months. I'm working on it, I said honestly. It will take time, but this is a start. That evening, I stayed for dinner. We talked more openly than we had in years, painful truths coming to light alongside memories and hopes for the future. We were far from healed, but we were beginning to rebuild on a foundation of honesty rather than expectations and assumptions. As I was leaving, my father walked me to the door. You're a better person than I ever managed to be, Alex, he said quietly. Thank you for not giving up on us, even when we gave you every reason to. I smiled tiredly. Family is complicated, but it's still family. Walking to my car, I glanced back at the house. My house now, with all its history and flaws and potential. I didn't know what the future held, whether Jessica would come crawling back when things inevitably fell apart in LA, or how my relationship with my parents would evolve from here. But for the first time in months, I felt a sense of resolution, of pieces falling into their proper places. I had paid $50,000 to save this house once. Now I had paid $20,000 more to reclaim it, not just the physical structure, but what it represented: stability, commitment, and the complex bonds of family. Some might call me a fool for stepping back into the role of caretaker after being so deeply hurt, but this time, I was doing it with open eyes and on my own terms. This time, there were boundaries and acknowledgments and a new understanding. Sometimes I realized the greatest strength isn't in walking away, but in rebuilding something broken into something stronger than before. And sometimes, forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past, but about creating a better future despite it.